Most people don't struggle with conflict. They struggle with what conflict means about them. It's not the disagreement that destabilizes you. It's the identity threat. Someone challenges you, and immediately something tightens. Not because you're wrong, not because they're right, but because your nervous system interprets disagreement as danger. Danger to reputation, danger to belonging, danger to authority, danger to self-image. And even if you've seen through the narrator, even if you no longer cling to a fixed identity, conflict can still activate old wiring. Season 10 is about participation without becoming. And conflict is one of the clearest places this gets tested. Because when identity is involved, conflict becomes war. When identity is not involved, conflict becomes information. That's a different posture entirely. Let's start simple. Someone disagrees with you in a meeting, at home, online, in a casual conversation. What happens inside your body before words form, before logic kicks in? Does your jaw tighten? Does your chest brace? Do you prepare a counterpoint before they finish speaking? That reaction is ancient. The human brain evolved to detect social threat quickly. Belonging meant survival. Exclusion meant danger. So disagreement can feel like rejection, and rejection can feel like threat. But here's the shift. Threat to what? If there is no fixed identity to defend, if you are not trying to become the smart one, the right one, the stable one, then what exactly is under attack? Most conflict escalates because two identities are protecting themselves. Not two humans exchanging information. Two identities. I'm the competent one. I'm the caring one. I'm the spiritual one. I'm the responsible one. I'm the strong one. When someone challenges behavior that's attached to identity, it feels personal. But participation without becoming changes this. You are not a role. You are not a position. You are not a fixed version of yourself. You are responding in real time, and responses can adjust. Identity resists adjustment. Presence allows it. Let's bring this into a real-world moment. Your partner says, "You're not listening to me." If your identity is the attentive one, that statement feels like accusation. If your identity is the one who tries hard, that statement feels unfair. If your identity is the calm one, you may suppress reaction but feel the internal flare. But if identity isn't at the center, the statement becomes data. Something about this interaction feels unheard. Now you can engage. You can ask. You can clarify. You can correct. Or you can say, "You're right. I drifted." Clean. No collapse. No counterattack. No over-explaining. Conflict without identity is flexible. Identity-based conflict is rigid. Now let's step into leadership. You make a decision. Someone on your team pushes back. Immediately, you feel the urge to defend your reasoning, to assert authority, to clarify your intelligence. But what if their pushback isn't a threat? What if it's information? Conflict without identity says, "Let's examine this." Identity-based conflict says, "I must protect my position." Protection breeds escalation. Examination breeds clarity. You can lead firmly. You can hold boundaries. You can make decisions others don't like. But when identity isn't attached, you don't harden unnecessarily. You don't take feedback as attack. You don't interpret disagreement as disrespect automatically. You respond to the situation, not the story about yourself. Here's the deeper layer. Many people avoid conflict entirely, not because they're peaceful, because they fear identity damage. They fear being seen as difficult, mean, wrong, insensitive, ignorant. So they stay neutral. They swallow tension. They disengage. They say, "It's fine," when it isn't. But that's not participation. That's withdrawal. And Season 10 is not about withdrawal. It's about engagement without ego armor. Conflict without identity allows you to say, "I don't agree," without tightening, without performing strength, without collapsing, just steady. There's a nervous system component here. When conflict begins, the body prepares. Fight, flight, freeze, or appease. If you tend toward fight, you escalate quickly. If you tend toward flight, you disengage. If you freeze, you shut down. If you appease, you agree to keep peace. All of these patterns are survival strategies. None of them are wrong, but they're reactive. Participation is responsive. Responsive means you notice activation. You don't immediately obey it. You breathe once. You allow space. You choose your words deliberately. That small pause changes everything. Not because you're controlling emotion, but because you're not fused with it. Identity fuses with emotion. Presence observes it. Here's something important. Conflict without identity does not mean passivity. It does not mean letting people walk over you. It does not mean staying soft in the face of manipulation. In fact, it often makes you clearer, because you're not protecting image. You can say, "That doesn't work for me. That's not accurate. I'm not okay with that," without over-explaining, without proving, without trying to win. Winning is identity-driven. Resolution is participation-driven. Let's talk about being wrong. This is where identity shows itself most clearly. If being wrong threatens who you think you are, you will resist correction. You will argue longer than necessary. You will double down. You will reinterpret facts. But if identity is light, being wrong becomes adjustment. "Oh, I missed that. That makes sense. I see your point." That's not weakness. That's flexibility. Strong spine, soft ego. The strongest people in a room are often the most willing to adjust, because they're not defending self-image. Now consider the opposite. You're right, and someone else is wrong. Identity-based conflict wants them to admit it, to acknowledge your intelligence, to validate your position. Participation-based conflict simply corrects and moves on. You don't need applause. You don't need dominance. You need clarity. Clarity doesn't gloat. It stands steady. Here's the truth most people don't want to admit. Sometimes conflict feels energizing because it reinforces identity. It sharpens the sense of self. It gives you a role: the challenger, the defender, the rebel, the authority. Without identity, conflict loses drama. It becomes functional, efficient, clear, less adrenaline, more resolution. Some people mistake that for boredom. It's maturity. This applies in families. This applies in friendships. This applies at work. This applies online. Especially online. When you argue with a stranger on the internet, what are you defending? A viewpoint or a sense of self? Would you still argue if no one knew your name? If no one could attach your identity to your words? Conflict without identity doesn't mean silence. It means intention. You speak when useful. You disengage when it's noise. You don't need to win strangers. You don't need to dominate conversations. You participate where it matters. There's also something powerful about being able to stay steady when someone else escalates. If they're loud, if they're emotional, if they're reactive, identity wants to match intensity. Presence doesn't. Presence stays grounded, not to dominate, not to appear superior, but because escalation isn't required. When you're not defending identity, you don't have to mirror energy. You can stay calm without suppressing. You can stay firm without aggression. You can stay engaged without absorbing. So here's the challenge for this week. The next time conflict appears, small or large, notice, what part of me feels threatened? Is it my role, my image, my competence, my morality, my intelligence? Then ask, if I wasn't protecting identity right now, how would I respond? Not hypothetically, practically. Maybe you would speak more clearly. Maybe you would soften. Maybe you would disengage. Maybe you would apologize. Maybe you would hold your boundary more firmly. Identity distorts response. Presence clarifies it. Participation without becoming means you don't become the strong one in conflict. You don't become the peaceful one. You don't become the righteous one. You don't become the victim. You respond as the situation requires. Clean, direct, steady. Conflict isn't a test of who you are. It's a moment of interaction. And when identity isn't central, conflict stops feeling like survival. It becomes navigation. That's adulthood. Not spiritual adulthood, human adulthood, caring without carrying, conflict without identity. This season is building a spine, not rigid, not armored, steady. Next episode, we'll explore something that touches everything we've discussed. Building without becoming the builder, ambition without ego, action without self-creation. Because participation includes creating, and creating can easily turn back into identity. If this episode stirred something in you, share it with someone who avoids conflict or escalates it. And if you're ready to stay steady when challenged, stay here. Season 10 continues.